Dial A for Atheist. What does that mean? Welcome to FFRF's Ask an Atheist. I'm Dan Barker. I'm co-president of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Usually we take time on this show to look at the state of free thought in the outside world and government and around the world. But today we're going to look inward and share some of the phone calls that we get at our office. And there has to be a frontline player in that job. And for us, it's our newest employee, Matt Kenyon. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Well, thanks. It's good to be here.
Is this your first time on the show?
It is my first time on the show, yes.
Wow, but you've had some experience before with broadcasting or shows.
Yeah, I have an extensive theater and some film background, so yeah, I'm not new hat to the film stuff.
Wow. So how did you, what is it, you're our director of first impressions, so what does that mean, director of first impressions?
Well, it means I answer the phone, I answer emails, and I greet people at the door. It's all about introducing us to people, whether they're new to us or not, and giving them, hopefully, a good first impression.
Well, you do that when we walk in. You're always so cheerful. And so they used to use the old word receptionist, but you're more than just a receptionist, right? You're like a all-around director of first impressions.
I like to think so.
Yeah.
I like to take my job a little bit more seriously than that, and maybe sometimes a little too seriously.
So, well, that's neat. So, and besides that, you also monitor communications from people that come into the office, emails and phone calls?
Absolutely, yeah. There's quite a few.
So today we're talking about phone calls that come in to our organization. What do you think? Is it mostly positive or negative or what? Is it a blend?
It's definitely a blend. Sometimes it's people needing help with their membership. Other times it's people telling us we need to move to some other country or telling us things that I can't repeat in polite company.
Wow, or that we could even play on the show?
Probably not.
Well, let's try it, okay?
All right.
We're going to try playing some of the more interesting calls, phone calls that you get from the answering machine from the last 3 months or so. And to make them more interesting, our director of IT, Scott Nickelbein, he fed the audio to various AI programs who put the words into the mouths of animated characters. So let's get started with a call that was a reaction to our Ron Reagan ad that recently aired on CBS 60 Minutes and several other programs.
Hi, I'm Ron Reagan, an unabashed atheist, and I'm alarmed, as you may be, by the intrusions of religion into our secular government. That's why I'm asking you to join the Freedom from Religion Foundation, the nation's largest and most effective association of atheists and agnostics working to keep state and church separate, just like our founders intended. Please join the Freedom from Religion Foundation today. Ron Reagan, lifelong atheist, not afraid of burning in hell.
And Ron Reagan, you're one ugly dude. One ugly dude. Your father was handsome. You're a piece of shit. You're not fit to live on this earth, you ugly-looking dog. That's probably why you hate the world. You're so ugly. Ron Reagan, you're a piece of shit. You're not fit to live on this earth. I hope God strikes you down, you piece of shit. Your parents wouldn't think much of you. They'd be sorry they ever gave birth, ever brought you into this world, you piece of shit. Hey, Ron, this is for Ron, you ugly, ugly piece of shit. You're not fit to live on this earth. You're a piece of shit. Go to Palestine and live. Yeah, I bet you're gay. No woman would want you. You're so ugly.
So I love her variety of language, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
So basically, what was the underlying argument of her presentation there?
I think essentially it roiled down to Ron Reagan's ugly.
Well, her voice didn't sound that attractive either.
No, I don't know who would be uglier, her or Ron Reagan. I don't know. We might have to take a vote.
So you heard that already, right?
I did.
So what did you first think when you heard a call like that?
I usually laugh. My first thought, I think, after I was done hysterically laughing was, it's interesting that she thinks that Ron Reagan works here, and she's leaving this message that Ron Reagan is going to somehow hear.
Well, he might be watching the show.
He might be.
So in which case, you know you are dearly loved, Ron.
Yep.
Okay, so I don't know how much formal argumentation that woman was presenting to us in her comments, but here's a clip that has some opinions about what should be done with us.
I suggest all of you go find a country or a space in this big world of ours where there is no religion and move there. It'd be good to get rid of all of you. Goodbye.
At least she was polite.
Okay, she was polite, and she probably didn't mean it in any violent sense, like just leave the country. But we have heard people in a violent sense saying that non-believers in the Make America Great country should be exterminated. There are some Christian nationalists who actually say that. So
that does happen, yeah.
she sounds kind of sweet, but underlying all of that. So where would you like to go, Matt? What country?
Oh, I don't know. You know, if I was going to go anywhere, I might choose somewhere like New Zealand. I hear that's pretty.
Yeah?
Yeah, far away from here.
Yeah?
So we meet her requirements.
That's cool. And they speak English?
They do speak English, yeah.
Yeah. I just heard on the news that the Maori people are becoming much, much less religious than they used to be. You know, the natives in New Zealand. But
Interesting.
So sometimes people tell me, hey, Dan, if you don't like America, go back where you came from. They don't know that on my dad's side of the family, I'm a fully enrolled member of an American Indian tribe. So where should I go back to? I should go back to Manhattan. That's where our tribe
Apparently.
was from. Yeah, so anyway. You get emails too besides the calls?
We do, and some of them are, we'll say, abusive. I tend to try and laugh it off, but sometimes they are rather abusive to the point of telling you to just go somewhere else, much like she does, only not nearly as polite.
But you might get some polite ones like Jesus loves you kind of thing, and I'm praying for you. You get these?
We do get those too, yeah. We actually get Christmas cards with those as well.
Yeah.
Telling us that they are going to pray for our heathen hearts.
I remember a few years ago, Ann Gaylor, who's the principal founder of FFRF, she got a Christmas card in the mail. I think we still have it here. Really sweet, you know, and I'm praying for you, and God loves you, and Jesus, and have a Merry Christmas. And then at the bottom, P.S., I hope to see you crossing the street someday. So whatever that means. Okay, so here's one of these clips about people praying for us. Let's watch this one.
Good morning. May God bless you guys all. I just stumbled on the most ridiculous thing I ever seen on TV. I cannot believe it's like really on TV. I just want to pray for you guys' souls. Pray to God that you find your way before it's too late. God also says, judge not, so I'm not judging you guys. I'm praying for you guys all. Never knew there was a community like that. It's really sickening, but who am I to judge? Just want to say that. I wish you guys all the best. I'm praying to God for your souls, and I pray that you meet the Creator before you leave this earth. May God bless you all. Bye-bye.
So that wasn't too bad. It was more like a sincere... although she thinks she's in touch with this creator of the universe who's going to influence our lives in some way. Right?
Yeah, and apparently she doesn't believe in judging, but then she judges.
She judges.
And then says she's not judging because it's not her job to judge. I think she's a little confused on what judging is.
Yeah, but okay, but it does show that our ad is making an impact.
It does.
She said, I've never seen anything like this on TV before. You can turn on the TV and radio almost any time of the day and hear preachers and the message of the gospel. You hear all that stuff all the time, but how often do you get to hear somebody saying, there is no hell, I'm not afraid of burning in hell? That's so rare that someone like her would be shocked by the fact that there are some non-believers in the world. Yeah.
I found it interesting that she said she'd never heard of a community like ours. So it makes you wonder, does she think that just everybody believes like she does?
Or maybe she thinks that there is one or two village atheists in every town, but we all hide in our basements, afraid. You know what I mean? It's that kind of a thing. They're like, there's no community, Some folks are paying attention to recent news events, but their take on them isn't very charitable.
Why did you just go back to Russia or join the Hamas?
He just called and said, go back to Russia or join the Hamas?
Yeah, apparently Hamas is atheists, but yet not. I'm not really sure what the logic is on that phone call. I think he's confused. Maybe
because Russia and Hamas, in his mind, are the ones who are aggressors in the world that are threatening freedoms, right? Ooh. So we atheists are the ones who are like threatening his freedom, maybe?
Fascinating. I mean, it brings around the point of, they say that when your privilege is taken away, it sometimes feels like someone's taking away a right, when really it's just your special privilege.
Yeah. Huh. Well, do you think we should start learning Russian?
Gosh, I hope not. I really don't want to try and learn the Cyrillic alphabet.
Well, maybe someday we'll have to, huh? Okay, so this person uses some of the more advanced functions of their TV set when our Ron Reagan ad comes on.
Oh.
I just love muting your advertisement when it shows up on CBS TV. Usually I just go to a commercial-free channel like the Animal Channel. Well, good luck, and remember, you don't find atheists in the foxhole. Bye.
So he knows how to use the mute button, which is fine, right? You don't have to watch every commercial.
No.
And it's not like we atheists are barging into his church to try to interrupt the sermons and drag him out of the pew. If he doesn't like it, he can ignore it, right?
Yeah, much like when I turn on the TV and it's a Christian preacher, I know how to turn the channel.
Yeah.
And apparently so does he. He likes the Animal Channel.
Well, our ad comes on. I don't know, it's been on national news for the last few years, so it's making some impact. Okay, so this guy has some additional specific thoughts about atheism.
You piece of shit atheist. But y'all can all go to fucking hell.
That's it? That's it, huh? That's supposed to...
At least he's consistent, right? Atheists going to hell. I mean, he's logically consistent within his phone call.
Except isn't he assuming some kind of authority on himself to actually tell us that we should be going to hell, right?
Good
like
point.
It's his message to tell us that, right?
He needs to talk to the lady earlier who reminded us that it's not their job to judge.
They probably know each other. But the previous call said there's no atheists in foxholes. Like, have we ever heard that before? What do you say when people say that?
I actually point out to them that I'm an atheist. I'm also a U.S. Marine. And yes, there are plenty of atheists in foxholes. And they're actually completely wrong. And I bet you if they asked a bunch of people who had been in the military, they might just find that some of them are atheists who were in foxholes.
But you weren't in a literal foxhole. These days it's more like a Humvee or something, right?
That's true. I mean, in training they did make us dig foxholes. So at one point I was an atheist in a foxhole.
Wow.
Yeah.
So my brother and my son were Marines too. So there's some similarity there.
Yeah.
Semper Fi and all that. We have a lot of members of FFRF who are either vets or current military. A huge number actually. And we have one of the only monuments in the country to, quote unquote, atheists in foxholes, because there are. In fact, he's dead now, but one of our members who fought in Iwo Jima, he was an atheist at the time, and his Christian buddy, I mean, it was horrible. On those beaches of Iwo Jima, it was horrible. I forget what the death rate was, but it was high. His Christian buddy was praying to God and praying to Jesus, and he got shot. And our member survived, and he said it was just dumb luck. He just survived by dumb luck. There, And so prayer didn't work.
Yeah.
So you might say there are very few Christians in foxholes because getting shot. What did you do? Where were you stationed?
I did some time at the Philadelphia Naval Base, and then I spent some time stationed in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And I never got deployed overseas. I was lucky enough to be in the military between the two Gulf Wars.
Yeah.
During peacetime.
My son was in Okinawa, defending our country by cooking hot dogs and hamburgers for the troops. He was a chef, and that's important. You got to do that, right?
Got to keep the food intake so that you can keep running around the battlefield.
Well, the thing is, he was deployed and he was deployable. I mean, he could have been called, so he was there, ready to go to whatever. Yeah. But I think they wanted to eat more than shoot bullets. But
yeah, Marine is an infantryman first and a cook second.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So what else do we have here? Okay, so here's somebody who mixes up two seemingly unrelated ideas, but at least he's concise.
I told you, communists, give it up. The man's coming back whether you like it or not.
Who's coming back? The man?
The man must...
Oh, Jesus is coming back. So how does that relate to communism?
I think there's this really strong belief in the Christian world that atheism and communism are synonymous, because apparently all communists are atheists, along with Hitler, who was a Catholic.
Well, the official communist regime was atheistic, although I think most of the members of the Soviet Union, most of the people were still religious, but there was an official forced top-down atheism.
Right.
Whereas, we've had Phil Zuckerman on our show before, the sociologist, who said that's a different kind of atheism than the natural, organic, bottom-up atheism. And if you look at countries like Denmark and other Nordic countries where it isn't organic, you find that it's peaceful, it's egalitarian, it's successful. Those countries that are organically atheistic are doing very well. And the ones that are sort of forced, we're not doing very well. So, do you ever get a chance to reply to the phone calls?
No, I have been tempted to call some people back before, especially the gentleman who said there's no atheists in foxholes. I really wanted to call him back and let him know that there are atheists in foxholes. But, I'm here about first impressions, not about calling people back and, as we say, engaging the crazy.
So our member who fought in Okinawa, the dog tags, they put your religion stamp on it in case your body is found and what kind of, He insisted he wanted atheists, and they didn't have that option.
Right.
It was either Catholic, Protestant, or Jewish. That's all there was back in the 40s.
Right.
And so he said, then just leave it blank. So he sent us his dog tags that just had a blank space. There was no religion on it at all. So but even back then, there were atheists in actual foxholes.
Yeah.
So do we have any more, Bruce? Okay, here's one that this clip seems to be confused about the idea of everybody.
I just got to say, you guys are some sick people. That's what's wrong with this world today. You guys need to really read it, understand it. You're wrong. God love everybody. Screw the atheists.
So he said we need to read it. What does that mean?
I think he means read the Bible. Which I don't know about you, but I have read most of it. It didn't help.
Yeah, and a lot of us have read the Bible a lot. I bet I've read the Bible more than he has.
Probably.
And I bet I know more about it than he does. Maybe not. He might be a scholar, but a lot of people say they started off as believers. They read the Bible and then became atheists. Yeah. I've heard people say exactly that, because then you know what it actually says, and you go, wait a minute.
I got an email actually this morning, somebody asking me to help explain Leviticus 29, verse 26, which says some version of, and then you will eat the flesh of your sons and daughters. And I said I couldn't help them. I don't know.
Well, there's cannibalism in the Old Testament scriptures. Yeah. And if you think about it, the Eucharist, the communion, you're eating the body of Jesus, right?
Yeah.
there are some passages where the God of the Old Testament threatens if you don't bow down and follow him, if you go play the harlot, as if you were married to some other husband besides him, as if you were, fooling around, then there are cases, not only will you eat your own children, but sometimes even the fruit of your womb. In other words, pregnant women will be ripped open as well. So there's really ugly passages there. And it fits in very well with the character of that deity in the Bible who is jealous and angry and possessive, and if you don't worship me, you're all going to be killed. So it fits perfectly with his godly character. Cannibalism does. Next time somebody calls, say that.
Will do.
So finally, by the way, we want to thank Scott Nickelbein for putting these things together. Who knows, maybe that's exactly what the people look like. I don't know. But finally, let's end on a happy note, although a misguided note.
Good morning. May God bless you guys all. I just stumbled on the most ridiculous thing I ever seen on TV. I cannot believe it's like really on TV. I just want to pray for you guys' souls. Pray to God that you find your way before it's too late. God also says, judge not, so I'm not judging you guys. I'm praying for you guys all. Never knew there was a community like that. It's really sickening, but who am I to judge? Just want to say that. I wish you guys all the best. I'm praying to God for your souls, and I pray that you meet the Creator before you leave this earth. May God bless you all. Bye-bye.
So it's really sickening, but I'm not going to judge.
Yeah. I'm not sure without judgment how she ended up at the conclusion that it's really sickening.
Well, but there's a threat there. She says, I hope you find out before it's too late. What does that actually mean?
You're right. When is too late, right? Is it too late when I get to the pearly gates? Is it too late when I finally pass away? When does it become too late?
Okay, but the real question is, after it's too late, what does that mean? Doesn't that mean hell or punishment or judgment? So really her kind words are couched in a threat. A threat of violence, really, when you think about it.
It's true.
And if we don't believe, we are going to suffer from this loving God.
Right. This benevolent God who's going to punish us.
Yeah. And I happen to think that any system of thought, any moral system that has to make its point by threatening violence in there is a morally bankrupt system. If this God does exist and does love us, there should be a way to know that without having to be scared, and if you're scared, then what is it, Maybe like an abusive father who says, you better obey me or I'm going to spank you. Well, do you love that dad? Well, maybe you love that dad, but it's the violence behind it.
It's not much of a choice if there's a threat behind choosing one or the other.
Yeah, let me make you an offer you can't refuse.
Right. So what happened to the idea of free will?
Were you raised religious?
I was raised Methodist.
Methodist, huh? So there's a method to your madness?
Well, there must be a method to their madness. At least they claimed so.
And did you really believe it, or were you just a church sitter?
I was one of those that I think struggled with it completely. And I always had a lot of questions during Sunday school, and eventually I just learned to keep my questions to myself because they didn't go over so well when I asked. And then when we were old enough, my friends and I would just skip as often as we could and go down the street to Burger King because we didn't really buy it. It was just kind of a thing our parents made us do, and we said the words, but I almost felt like there was something wrong with me because everybody else seemed to be buying into this stuff, and I just couldn't get there.
Well, then, Matt, you really never have met Jesus, have you?
Apparently not.
If you had truly met him and known him, your heart might have changed,
Oh my, here it goes. I feel it right now.
I used to preach that sermon. And now that I'm an atheist, people say, you never met Jesus, or you would not have left, right? But I was the opposite. I sat in church and I just bought the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I got goosebumps and I was so happy and I thought I was talking to God. So why are we different? Why was I a kid who was just so, and you were like sitting there going, huh?
That's a really good question, Dan. I don't know that anybody has ever come up with that answer. It might be just the way that we were introduced to religion. It could be something genetic inside of our brains. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, everything's genetic, but maybe, like there's variation in the species of all sorts of things. Your aptitudes, your abilities, your sports, your math, your music. So maybe there's some kind of whatever the word is, mystical aptitude that some people, like me, I'm just a half an inch from hearing voices. You know what I mean? I'm just like that kind of a person. But maybe you're more over here on the spectrum. I don't know if there is such a spectrum. But
well, and then there's, you've expressed this idea of a natural feeling of wanting to feel gratitude towards something, and how that could possibly be that thing that leads people to religion, is that feeling of needing something to be grateful to.
Yeah.
Maybe I just wasn't a very grateful person.
Well, are you grateful for this job?
I am very grateful for this job, Dan. What's funny is now I have a lot of gratefulness to all kinds of things, and none of it has anything to do with religion. I do sometimes think like, wow, wouldn't it be easier if there was something to thank? But I'm just grateful to be alive every day I get up and still breathing.
So when we're done here, you're going to go back to more phone calls?
Actually, the mail arrived right before we started, so I get to go through the mail. And sometimes that's fun, especially this time of year when we get Christmas cards of all different flavors.
Maybe we'll play some more on a future show.
Sounds good.
Is there anything else you want to say before we quit, or do you want to be the director of last impressions here?
Director of last impressions, maybe lasting impressions. No, this has been absolutely fantastic, and as much as some of these phone calls are sometimes difficult to hear, it's been an exercise in reminding myself that humanity overall is good. Sometimes I question it when I get some of these phone calls that, frankly, we can't play on air. There are a few of those. I actually got some just this week.
Well, I remember in the past, some of our female staff were crying over the things they said they wanted to do to them. You know what I mean? There's some Christian love can be very ugly sometimes.
Yeah, we have a saying down there that sometimes the Christian love burns.
Well, thanks for coming on the show today.
Well, thanks for having me, Dan.
Fun having you. We'll have to do this again.
Yeah.
So I guess that concludes Ask an Atheist for this week. And don't forget, we also have a weekly broadcast TV show called Free Thought Matters. This week, we are reprising our interview with the late Ed Asner. And you can see Free Thought Matters on TV stations all across the U.S. and also on FFRF's Facebook and YouTube channels. And don't miss Free Thought Radio. We have a lot of entertaining guests, newsmakers, scientists, philosophers, and just your homegrown atheists. You can find the radio show at ffrf.org/radio. Also, check out the We Dissent podcast with Elizabeth Cavell, Rebecca Markert, and American atheist Allison Gill. They interview ex-Mormon lawyer and former BYU assistant Dean Anaya Gale. Listen and subscribe to We Dissent wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can check us out online at we-dissent.org. If you want more info about the Freedom from Religion Foundation, check out our website at ffrf.org. And if you're a member already, thank you. If not, please join us. We'll see you next week on FFRF's Ask an Atheist.